Hey guys, YouTube Orphanage here. Alright, and now here I am continuing with my Christmas reviews for this year. Now here I am with a review for The Miracle on 34th Street remake. So, if you've been subscribed to me for the last few years, I did review the original Miracle on 34th Street a few years ago. And yeah, overall yeah, this one was definitely really good. Yeah, I'll put a link for my review of the original Miracle on 34th Street in the description if you want to watch that if you haven't seen it before, so you can really know my thoughts on that one. And so yeah, the original definitely was really good. I mean, the original really is looked at as a classic by many. I mean, so yeah, the original's really good. And as far as this one goes, overall, I mean, this one really has definitely a lot of a mixed reception to it. Like, some people like it, some people hate it. So, yeah, this one is definitely really mixed for a lot of people. Overall, I mean, I think this movie, I guess, is overall, it's a good film, I guess. I mean, definitely does not compare to the original at all. But I guess it's good, but yeah, it's just good. It's nothing more than that. It's not really good. It's not great. Yeah, it's not any of that. It's just good. So, yeah, of course, this film was written by John Hughes. And, this film is probably, looked at as probably John Hughes' best written film after Home Alone 2. Because yeah, as pretty much everybody knows, after Home Alone 2, just about every movie that John Hughes wrote after that really were pretty much all stinkers really, because yeah, Home Alone 2 was really the last film John Hughes wrote that really was looked at as being really good by people. After Home Alone 2, John Hughes was just wrote a bunch of stinkers. Like after Home Alone 2, John Hughes wrote films like Home Alone 3, of course, and John Hughes also wrote films like Dennis the Menace, Baby's Day Out, uh, the live action 101 Dalmatians, Flubber, Just Visiting. So yeah, and all those films really were not that real well received at all. Like those films really did have a real negative reception from both audiences and critics. So yeah, pretty much after Home Alone 2, John Hughes' career basically just fell flat really. But yeah, this film overall probably is looked at by many as the film after Home Alone 2 that he wrote that it probably was the best one, the best post Home Alone 2 film John Hughes wrote. Yeah, because yeah, overall he did do a decent job writing this film. Yeah, just yeah, like I said, it just really does not compare to the original Miracle on 34th Street at all. So yeah, this film it doesn't have the cast for this film is just kind of hit and miss. I mean, definitely Richard Attenborough is really good in this film as a Kris Kringle. I mean, he's definitely the best thing about the film. He's definitely he definitely does do the best job in this. Everybody else really is just they're just kind of average really. I mean, there's Mara Wilson, Elizabeth Perkins, Dylan McDermott, JT Walsh. So yeah, they're all just really kind of average really. I mean, they really don't compare to the original cast at all. Yeah, it's only Richard Attenborough in this movie who's really good as Kris Kringle. Yeah, he's almost just as good as uh, Edmund Gwenn from the original film, but yeah, Edmund Gwenn I still do think is the better Kris Kringle. Yeah, I mean, I saw Nostalgia Crunch's top 12 Santa Claus video that he did back in 2013 or something, and yeah, he did put Edmund Gwenn and Richard Attenborough in back-to-back spots, and he did put Edmund Gwenn higher. Yeah, he just said that Edmund Gwenn was just slightly the better Kris Kringle, and I agree he is. But yeah, Richard Attenborough does give his own take on the role, and yeah, he does do a pretty good job with this. Yeah, Mara Wilson as a Susan in this film. She is just oh gosh, I mean, she just really is like pretty like her acting really is just like ugh. I mean, yeah, Mara Wilson just her acting in this film is just like really kind of stale, really. I mean, it's like she really isn't trying very much. I mean, yeah, she's like Natalie Wood is definitely like the better Susan in this film, and yeah, pretty much like all the cast from the original film is really like better than the cast in this film. Yeah, just about yeah, pretty much just everybody in the original film is better than the cast in this film. Yeah. So yeah, in this review, I'm not really gonna like really like completely go over the plot of this film because yeah, the plot in this film basically is just about the same plot from the original film. Like it's basically just the exact same story as the original film is. So yeah, I'll just go over like the premise for Miracle on 34th Street again real quick. Yeah, yeah, basically like the premise of Miracle on 34th Street is there's this man who, well, yeah, Kris Kringle, just like he is like assigned to be Santa in the Thanksgiving parade, and he just like is really believing himself to be Santa Claus, and so like he is then like hired as like a department store Santa, and the kids really do love him, and of course like Santa, like Kris Kringle, like of course like forms a connection with Susan in this, and Susan really is like in like she really doesn't like believe in Santa at first, but yeah, as this film progresses, like of course like Susan really does like have like more beliefs of Santa, and then she like eventually does become convinced like Kris Kringle is Santa, and all the other kids really do feel that way also, and eventually like Kris Kringle is just eventually like put on trial or something because he's just looked at like in the original film he was just looked at as like really not being mentally well or something, but in yeah in like this film like it's kind of different. Yeah, in this review like after I go over the premise, I'll like go over like the kind of the things that this film does do differently from the original film. So I'll go over that after I'm done with this. Yeah, yeah, and yeah, basically like Kris Kringle ends up being put on trial for this, and it's kind of like the judgment is like almost looked at as like he's gonna be found guilty of this and looked at as like not the real sinner or something. But then once the judge receives like mail and stuff, of he like is like ends up being convinced that Kris Kringle's Santa, and like the charges are dismissed and stuff. Often Kris Kringle ends up being released and believed to be everyone as Santa. And of course, like then like also in this film, like Susan tells like Kris Kringle what she wants for Christmas, and then like around at the end of this film, like it's like shown to like I guess like show that Kris Kringle really is Santa. To then like it shows at the end that Susan does get what she wants for Christmas and stuff. So yeah, there's that, and yeah, also like Susan's mother, her, Doris, Oris, is of course like ends up like forming a romance with her neighbor in the like in the original film his name was Fred Gailey, and in this film his name is Brian Bedford. So yeah, I guess that's one of the things that this film does do differently from the original. And yeah, then of course like by the end of the film they end up like falling in love with each other and stuff. So yeah, there's just like some of the elements pretty much like the premise of Miracle on 34th Street. Yeah, that's basically what the original film and this film are like really about. That's really what they do have the same thing in them about, yeah. And as far as like changes go in this film, uh in this film they like change around a few things. Like in this film, like they have changed the names of the competing department stores. Whereas in this film, yeah, of course, like in the original film, like the competing department stores were Macy's and what was the other one? It was Macy's and Yeah, yeah, well, yeah, it was Macy's and another store. I forgot which one it was. Yeah, and in this film, they changed it because, yeah, apparently, like in this film, like Macy's declined any involvement with this film. So yeah, they like changed the names just to fictitious names. Like instead, they changed it from Macy's to Kohl's, and well, yeah, Gimbels. Gimbels was the name of the other or department store in the original film. Yeah, it was Macy's and Gimbels, and yeah, in this film they replaced Gimbels with a fictional Shoppers Express store. So now they changed that, and they kind of did like change up like how Kris Kringle really was hired to play Santa in the Thanksgiving parade. Like in the original film, just like the Santa that was originally hired, he was just like intoxicated or something. Something, yeah. The original Santa for the Thanksgiving parade ended up being intoxicated, and so then he was fired, and Doris like replaced him with Kris Kringle. Yeah, and in this film, it's kind of the same thing, but it's handled a little differently. Like in this film, like the original Santa for the parade, he does end up getting drunk, but like he also like ends up just like really acting real drunk. Also, like it actually shows like he is like doing things to really like taunt like the people watching this parade and stuff. Like he's just really acting drunk towards everyone, and as opposed to the original film where it was just like Doris and Kris Kringle and a couple of other people did actually see the Santa like being intoxicated and stuff. So yeah, it was changed up in this film to handle it a little differently. Yeah, and of course, like I said before, uh, uh, they like did change the name of like Doris's love interest in this film, and stuff. Yeah, and yeah, the connection with uh, Kris and uh, Susan in this film, it is pretty much sort of the same thing. Like they do go through like the same elements, like when Susan ends up pulling on Chris's beard and stuff, and when Kris is like babysitting over Susan, and she tells him like her wishes and stuff. So yeah, there's that. So yeah, it does like overall like have like different elements to it. Like also they like change it up of like why Kris ends up going to court. In the original film, like it's just looked at as like since it's like Kris Kringle really does believe himself to be Santa, like uh uh it's just like is looked at by a one of the by one of the people in the original film that Kris is just looked at as unstable. Well, that since he thinks he's Santa and he's just too kind-hearted, so he ends up being put on trial, and it's like they're trying to put him in a mental institution or something, and that's why they like put him on trial for here. In this film, like instead of that, like it's shown that like the guy that originally was gonna play Santa in the Thanksgiving parade, he's just like looking for revenge on Kris Kringle for what he did to him, and pretty much taking over his job. So he basically ends up like making it look like Kris Kringle had assaulted and injured him, and so then Kris ended up like being arrested and put on trial for that. So yeah, it's like one of the things that this film does do differently, and in this film also like one of the other things that this film does do differently from the original film is like when they're put on trial, like the way Kris Kringle ends up like being like pretty much like acquitted and stuff is done differently than how it was in the original film. In the original film, like it was like the way the judge was really convinced that Kris Kringle was really Santa, and he like dismissed the case and everything. Was that there were like all those bags of letters that from kids that really did believe Kris Kringle was Santa and stuff. and then like he just ended up like being convinced through all those letters that Kris Kringle was Santa and dismissed the case. While in this film, like Susan is like at the trial, and she ends up like giving the judge a Christmas card, and it includes like a $1 bill, and like on the back of the bill, like the "In God We Trust" words are circled, and then yeah, that just like ends up like convincing the judge that since like the faith in God is like put with like really no evidence of his existence, he really did feel that people could believe in Santa that very same way. So then that's when he ended up like deciding that Kris Kringle was convinced that Kris Kringle was Santa, and he then ended up like clearing Kris Kringle of the charges and stuff, and then yeah, yeah, that's how he this dismissed the case in here and like clears all the charges from Kris and stuff. So yeah, that's another thing. And yeah, I guess like one more thing I will say that this film does do differently than the original. It's just like the ending of this film when like of course like at the ending that's when like Susan's wishes are granted with like the house and everything that she wanted before. Like that's still in the this film just like it was in the original. But yeah, like like in the original film, like it's shown that there was that cane in the house that was believed to be Kris's, but it was never actually like confirmed whether it was or not. Yeah, we don't see that in this film. Rather than that, like the way this film ends is that like one of Susan's wishes in this film was to have a baby brother, and like like Dorothy, yeah, that's her name in this film. Dory and Brian end up like getting married, he'd like around the end of this film. Once they arrive at the house, it then like shows that there's Dory's. It shows like Dory's stomach. I guess it was like hinting she was pregnant, and then they end up like kissing, and yeah, it just like is ends with them like sharing a kiss with each other rather than like making it seem like Kris Kringle was actually there. It's yeah, in this film like as it ends, it just is mentioned that he went overseas and stuff, and so yeah, just like it ends differently than it does in the original. But yeah, so yeah, those are the few things it does do differently than the original. So yeah, so yeah, those are really just like what really this film really does do differently than the original film. Yeah, overall, I think that yeah, like I said, this really does not compare to the original film at all. The original film definitely is the superior film. Yeah, I guess this film really just is good. I mean, just I guess like the biggest gripes about this movie is that it does like really get on focus sometimes. Like the trial in this film, it really does seem to drag on and stuff. And just yeah, the acting, especially from Mara Wilson, really is just sort of like really awkward and cheesy and stuff. And so yeah, the original film overall definitely is superior. It has better acting. It's more focused. It tells the story better. So yeah, this film like pretty much everything about it is really the original film really about everything about it is really better than this film. So yeah, so that's my take on it. So if I had to give this film a rating, I would give it like 3 stars out of 4. It's good, but nothing else. So would I recommend this film? Well, if you're curious enough, I would say watch it. But yeah, if you really like are like a big fan of the original film, and if you really are expecting like any like a remake to really like anything to really be as great, you're really not going to get that with this film. So I would personally just watch the original again. So yeah, that's really just my take on it. So yeah, my recommendation is really just stick to the original. Watch this if you're curious, but don't be really expecting much from it. Alright, so yeah, so that's my take on the Miracle on 34th Street remake. So yeah, I guess that does for my review of this film. So I hope you guys enjoyed this review. I know this review was a little bit differently, but yeah, like I said, pretty much this just really has the exact same story as the original film. So yeah, I basically just all I could really talk about was really what it did differently than the original film. Alright, so anyway, so yeah, I guess that does it for this review. So I hope you guys enjoyed this review. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later.